Ketovore is an excellent thing to transition into from a regular keto diet because it is great for breaking you out of weight loss stalls and also getting rid of some health issues that you still haven't been able to quite resolve on keto. The only problem is you may not be sure what kind of macros you're supposed to be following when doing a Ketovore diet. So I'm just going to give you a simplified version of what the macros need to be on Ketovore, and then I'm also going to tell you when and how you need to tweak these macros depending on a few different factors. So the typical starter ratios for a Ketovore diet are going to be almost exactly the same as keto. You're going to have higher fat than protein, so you're going to have moderate protein, and then the carbs are also extremely low, but the only difference is you're going to crank those carbs even lower. Typically on a keto diet, you can have 20 to 50 carbohydrates. With a Ketovore diet, you want to stay at 10 carbohydrates daily or less. So that's the short and simple layout of the macros on Ketovore, but there are going to be certain things to where you may need to tweak these macros just a little bit, and it's all going to depend on your activity level and things that you do. So dividing this into 3 categories, and the first one is going to be if you're a serious weightlifter or you have a very physical demanding job. If you fall into this category, here's the tweaks that you can make, and I'm going to go through the fat, protein, and the carbs. Since you're going to need more protein to build muscle and recover better and quicker, if you're doing serious weightlifting or a very physical job, you can take the protein and bring it up even with the fat that you're intaking every day. And if you want to, you can even take the protein just a little bit higher than the fat. As active as you are, you ain't gonna have to worry about that little extra glucose that's coming from that extra amount of protein that you're having, because you're gonna be burning it up during your workouts or when you're at work. And that kind of ties into the tweak to the carbs you're gonna wanna make. As I said, on Ketovore, you have 10 grams or less daily, but you may want to bump the carbs up to 15 or 20 to help fuel your workouts or be able to perform better at your job. Now, the reason for this is when you're doing a very intense activity for a short duration, your body's not able to really utilize ketones for that. It utilizes glucose because it needs something that it can turn quickly into energy. That is where glucose comes into play. It can be burned up for energy really fast to fuel those quick and heavy movements that you're doing. The next category is going to be if you're very active or just an active person. You're not exactly a gym goer and you don't really have a very physical demanding job, but you may enjoy activities like walking or jogging, or usually on the day-to-day basis, you just have a lot of errands to run. Maybe you have a lot of kids to take care of, or family members that you have a lot of events and things that you do. This is where you're going to be perfectly fine and stable staying at the regular Ketovore macros, higher fat to protein, moderate protein, and 10 grams of carbs or less daily. Now, where the gears change again though are going to be in the third category, and that is if you are sedentary. Now, if you are sedentary, I highly encourage you to not be sedentary and try to at least try to do some kind of activity, even if it's just walking, because that's going to be a lot better for you in the long run as far as your health is concerned. But maybe for whatever reason you're not able to do that. So the adjustments you want to make are going to be, you want to take the fat that you're eating and make sure it's 50% higher than the daily amount of protein that you're having, whether it's divided between 2 or 3 meals. Some example macros are like this. If you have 50 grams of protein daily, which is kind of low, you want to make sure that you have 100 grams of fat daily. Now, the reason for this is because if you don't know, fat buffers out the insulin response that you get from protein. That's why on a keto diet you need more fat than protein, because the whole goal is to get your insulin levels as low as possible. And since you're sedentary and you're not really having much activity going on to burn up any excess glucose that you're getting from that daily carb limit, you want to do this to make sure you're keeping your insulin levels as low as possible. Now, as far as the carbohydrate goes, this is where you want to definitely stay at the 10 grams or less daily, but honestly, try to keep it as close to 0 as possible. If you have something that's going to add those 10 grams of carbs in, try to find a way to cut that out and add something else in. Maybe a little more protein and a little more fat. Since you're not really doing any activities to burn up the small amount of carbs that you are taking in, that's why it's better to keep it as low as possible. Now, I could give you example macros as far as being specific on how much fat and protein you should be eating daily, but everybody is so different that would have to be tweaked back and forth from person to person that tries this. That's why I just gave you the ratios. The best thing that you can do, whether you're eating 2 or 3 meals a day, or maybe 3 meals a day with snacks, which I highly don't recommend, is just eat to satiety. Eat enough at each meal to where you can get to your next meal comfortably and not have to have any snacks. After you do this for only a day or two, you'll know exactly what you need with each meal. But then take which category you're in, take those ratios I gave you, and make sure you do these month by month, and then look at the results each month. And then you may need to make some adjustments, whether maybe you're still not losing weight, or maybe you're wanting to maintain, or maybe you're wanting to gain a little bit of weight back. Doing it week by week is not going to be a good idea because it takes up to a month sometimes to see results from just a small change in the ratios you're eating of certain foods and macros. So I hope this helps you understand the macros you need to be at when you're doing a ketovore diet, depending on what category you're in. And if you have any questions I didn't answer, be sure to leave them in the comments and I'll definitely get back to you. But as always, guys, keep it keto, keep it healthy, and I'll talk to y'all next week.